Hello and welcome to Horologique. I am Olivier, and by the thumbnail of that video, you already know what's in this big, beautiful Omega box. However, I wanted to explain first why the title of that thumbnail. And as many of you, I suppose, I've been on the Rolex waitlist for a GMT Batman for about 2 years and a half, and I still have not heard from my AD. So I said, screw it, and let's go ahead and buy myself an Omega Seamaster. And at first I was very reluctant about this model, knowing that I own the Pierce Brosnan James Bond and that it fits perfectly on my quite small 6.5-inch, 16.5 centimeter wrist. Every time I try this watch at the AD, this new version, it always seemed a bit too big and too bulky compared to this one. But that was until I saw this new wide dial model online, as this watch has a lot of coverage right now, and I just knew that I had to have it. Just to let you know, this watch has just arrived today. I haven't even looked at it, so we're going to be discovering this together. Let's see inside this box. For those who have modern Omegas, this layout is already pretty known to you. So right here you have the cards on this leather pouch, signed Omega of course, and you have the pictograms. You can see that it has a master chronometer certification, and you have the warranty for this watch. Okay, and you have of course your typical big, pretty thick Omega instruction manual, and it's pretty thick but it's pretty simple, and it has a lot of languages here, and they do explain how to use that deploy and clasp, and we'll be seeing it live pretty soon. Okay, so let's get into the watch. So let's check that beauty. Here it is. First impressions, it does look very nice. It comes of course with the reference number, with the price or retail. This model with the bracelet, as you can see, retails for 5,000. I had it for way less than that, new. Okay, let me just get all these stickers and all this plastic out of the way. Just one thing first, I think it is pretty fair game to talk about the beautiful presentation of this box. And the box is real wood. It's like a piano finishing on it with the embossed Omega. You open the box by pressing this Omega button, and it's so very well done, very refined, and I really think that Rolex should up their game compared to what they do right now. Right now, as of 2020, the Rolex presentation box is just some plastic thing, very small and not worthy of what you have inside. And I know that it's almost never about the packaging, but when you're paying this kind of money and Rolex kind of money, I think the package does matter. So first of all, let's get the dimensions out of the way. It's a bit over 42. It is indeed 13.4 in height, and the log to log is 49.1, so 49 basically. And of course, the log width is a very compatible 20 millimeters. And size for my 6.5-inch wrist, it weighs at 182 grams, which is quite heavy. And when you add the missing links, it goes almost to 200 grams. So this is no lightweight. And first thing you notice is that amazingly nice dial. That dial is all the talk with this watch. The wave pattern is back from when the original Seamaster was king, and let me tell you that they have done it beautifully. And the indices, as you can see in my original version, from this watch is from 1993, the indices that are beautifully patina here, the indices in the new version are very much raised. That gives a very nice three-dimensional aspect to the dial that is enforced by the wave pattern. I would think that the wave pattern would be much more discreet in this white dial, but it's not. You can actually see it very well. And of course, as you can see, you've got the Omega Seamaster Professional there, the coaxial master chronometer, of course, 300 meters, and the date at 6, and of course the Swiss-made text. So let's talk about the hands, because it's a point of contention. The hands have not changed stylistically from the original hands on this version, and there are still these skeletonized hands that many people don't like, but I like them very much. I think they give a unique look to this watch. The other stylistic trait that has changed is that helium escape valve. It's a conical shape now, compared to just the cylinder on the original version. The new aspect about this crown is not only the shape, but apparently you can dive with this crown open. And of course you don't get 300 meters water resistance, but you get up to 50 meters, which is pretty much enough. And I know that a lot of people don't like this crown and didn't like it on the original model either, the wart they call it. But I think that like the hands and like the scallop bezel, it gives this vintage style to this watch. However, the materials like ceramic on the dial and on the bezel insert give it a much more modern look. As you can see in the indices, you have that beautiful blue lume, and on the minute hand and on the lume pip, you've got some green lume. So we talked about the dial. Let's now talk about the bezel insert. And the bezel insert is ceramic, and the font of those numbers, of those numerals, has changed a bit compared to the older versions. As you can see, the older version, the font is just pretty small, and here it is big and bold. And something very important that was always criticized in this watch is the rotating bezel. So first time that I rotate this bezel, let's see how it rotates. You can see that gripping and turning this bezel is much easier than turning the older one. And this was a big complaint about this watch. Many people couldn't turn the bezel. And I had a trick for it. What you have to do in the old versions is that you have to push a bit, and then you can easily turn it. But here, you don't have to do it anymore. You just have to grab that nice bezel and it just rotates. So what about the action? I would say it's a pretty good action. It's not as precise as I would like it to be, but it's acceptable, let's say. That was the bezel. Let's now look at the case. And the case is the same case that is characteristic of the Seamaster, with those beautiful lyre lugs, with that very nice brushing on the sides of the case, and that brushing is also done on the scallop bezel, and that polishing is continued in all the upper side surface, and it goes all the way to the back. And I would say that it's a step up from the older version. Let's take that sticker off. That feels good. And that allows us to take a peek into that beautiful coaxial 8800 movement. As machined movements go, this Omega is just really beautiful. So the movement is the Omega Master Coaxial 8800. And what does Master Coaxial mean? It means that, first of all, accuracy-wise, the watch will not deviate from a 0 to 5 seconds a day at most, and the watch is resistant to 15,000 Gauss. Just to give you an idea, the Rolex Milgauss is resistant to 1,000 Gauss. So this is ready for all that you can throw at it. You can leave it on top of your phone or your laptop, no problem. This can take it. So the movement has 35 joules and a power reserve of 55 hours. Let's now take a look at the bracelet. And let me take all this wrapping off. Nice. Okay, that's done. So let's take a look at that bracelet. And as you can see, the theme from the older models, from the older Seamaster 300N models, is still done with a 7-link bracelet. However, in here it is much flatter than the other one that was, as you can see, comparatively much rounder. So this gives it a much modern look, I think. So the bracelet is at 20 millimeters and it doesn't taper. And the clasp is of course machined. It has a beautiful bevel on the sides, and of course it is signed Omega with that beautiful engraving. To open it, you just have to press right there. You have this amazing feature that allows you to size the bracelet just by pushing on this button, and you have 5 levels of micro adjustment. And I know that many people are always saying that Rolex with their oyster clasp is the best micro adjustment, but this for me is more practical because you don't have to pull anything. You just have to push a button and then slide, which in my opinion is much easier. And the watch also has a diver extension. Okay. And here is that beautiful diver extension. So I'm gonna size this beautiful watch, and this is a moment of truth for me. Okay, I'm back. But let me tell you that sizing this watch for me took me about an hour. And that is not supposed to be so, because these are screw down links and it's supposed to be very easy to size. However, what you need to know is that this bracelet, being the beast that it is, it has a screw on each link, and both those small screws hold a centerpiece in the middle. And I will show you what those little screws look like. They are really, really small. So you better not lose them like I did, because otherwise you're pretty much screwed. First thing, and second thing, these screws are really, really tight. So it's very hard to screw them off. I ended up scratching one of them because it is so tight that your screwdriver will slip and bam, you've got a scratch. And once you've taken those 2 links off, you still need a tool to push that middle link out of the hole. So it is very tough and very secure, but actually very hard to size. And if you don't know what you're doing, you're better off going to a professional to have it sized. Let's see how it wears on my 6.5-inch wrist. And as you can see, even though this watch is a 42 millimeters, it wears pretty okay on my wrist. I wouldn't say it's a small watch, far from it. But it's better than I had anticipated. So, what are my first impressions of this watch? Well, you can actually see that it's a very refined timepiece, and that white dial certainly is something that will catch your eye. The brushing and everything screams quality. Another thing to like is that beautiful movement, that beautiful decoration I think this is the best decoration you can get at this price point. However, there are some things that I think Omega could have done better, and I still believe that the feeling when you rotate the bezel should be a little bit better for the price point. I just think it's a bit hollow. Then I really think that the bracelets should taper a little bit. 2020 makes it a bit bulky, and I think that a tapering to 18, 17 would be wonderful for this watch. I thought I would be much more impressed with the bracelet. Although it's aesthetically very pleasing, sizing this thing was such a hassle that I think I've got something against it. So that wraps up my first impression video. As much positive as it has negative. So I will wear this watch for a few weeks, a few months, get to know it, and I will get back with a full video of my overall impressions. Thank you for having watched the video. Don't forget to like and to subscribe to the channel to see more content coming. Thank you again and have a nice day. Goodbye.